leading the charge to make the 2024 Broker Carrier Summit possible, and we are so excited to have their support. In case you haven't heard, TAFS offers much more than freight factoring. It provides a comprehensive support system for trucking companies of all sizes, specializing in fast and efficient invoice factoring with the ability to pay carriers in as little as 1 hour. And TAFS services go well beyond factoring, offering a fuel card that unlocks major fuel discounts, flexible business loans that are designed to cater to the distinct needs of a carrier's operations, a dedicated, responsive client experience team, and much more. Blackbox Logistics is a 3PL freight brokerage based out of Birmingham. Alabama Blackbox Logistics was formed in 2020 by 3 friends, Logan Dyer, William Graves, and Will Hopkins, in a basement office with the goal of bringing transparency around the clock communication and hassle-free customer experience to the table. WireB is an AI-powered call automation platform built for freight brokers, designed to screen every inbound call in real time, block spoofing, phishing, and double brokering scams, verify compliance through integrations with FMCSA, Highway, and My Carrier Portal, and automatically connect brokers with qualified, vetted carriers, all before a human ever picks up the phone. Sales-CRM is built for freight broker and agent sales teams. Manage your shipper prospecting and follow-ups. Organize your carriers in the lanes they run. HD Ships is a leading logistics provider specializing in sustainable and tech-driven freight solutions. With hubs in Reno, Phoenix, and London, we deliver comprehensive services, including full truckload, expedited cross-border, and intermodal freight. Leveraging proprietary technology, we offer 24/7 tracking, real-time visibility, and advanced automation to ensure safe, compliant, and efficient transportation. Our commitment to sustainability enables clients to offset emissions through carbon credits, aligning logistics with environmental goals. At HD Ships, we prioritize transparency, reliability, and exceptional customer service, empowering clients to achieve seamless, sustainable logistics solutions worldwide.
Happy Thursday.
Yeah, man. Happy Thursday. How's everything on your end in Chattanooga?
Well, it's good. The text locate crew was nice enough to let me use their office because I'm waiting to get Wi-Fi for my apartment. The hotspot worked fine for like just working, doing recruiting because I'm on my phone so much anyway. But for the podcast, I didn't want it going in and out. So I don't know how the view is kind of like a parking lot here, but it's nice in downtown.
Yeah, it was better than the virtual background that you've been rocking with the with the old time piano. Is the text locate crew around you? Can they hear us right now?
They're out in the main room. I shut the door. I didn't want to disturb them. In case they're cold calling or on customer calls. So I'm in a conference room.
Awesome. We'll first show from the new headquarters at Text Locate, but Chattanooga.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'll probably have my background on when I'm doing it from my apartment, just with the view of the water. So, and then I'll start turning on get rid of the roof.
Put the piano to rest. The old virtual background. Well, before we get into this one, let's give a shout out to our sponsors. We've got Wirebee, preventing fraud, essentially an AI inbound call filter. They're doing great work. If you imagine all the time that your reps are spending sifting through that, and then then unfortunately, if and when somebody gets through, stolen loads, lost customers, none of that's good. And then we've got Black Box Logistics, which was recently named the People's Choice 3PL down in Birmingham, Alabama. That's a great group there. We appreciate your support, Black Box.
Thought we were skipping over them today. HD Ships for our recruit agents. If you want to be an agent, love to chat with you. Sales-CRM. Will just made a post about them today. They're our OG sponsor. They've been sponsoring us since before the show went live. So well over a year now. Is it hard to believe we're coming up on like 18 months of the show?
Yeah, when I was making that post, I wanted to say something about an hour 70 episodes in or whatever it is. But I quit putting the numbers in the live, so I have no idea. I could go and look on Spotify, but yeah, man, it's I don't know. It feels like yesterday. At the same time, it feels like it's been quite a while. But yeah, I mean, we've probably over 70 episodes now.
Yeah, I mean, we've done weeks with 2. Generally, it's 1, but yeah, it's got to be close to 70, I would think, or over. And our banner sponsor, Taft's, they also renewed last month. They haven't been there since day 1, but pretty close to it. It's been about a year with them. Top 10 factoring company. We've met Rob and Ryan in person. Fantastic guys. Definitely reach out to them if you're looking for factoring.
Yeah, tell them that the dog sent you. Well, I'm excited about this one. We're having Kyle Wilson on the show. I met Kyle for the first time this week through an intro from a mutual friend, and Kyle's got quite the background and experience. And then when we announced the post, we had a few people that were speaking out, really excited. We've got one right here who's tuned in, Josh. He says LFG K Dubs.
Quadruple exclam. Yes.
K Dubs. All right, man. Well, let's go ahead and bring K Dubs out on the stage. Kyle, thanks for joining us.
Guys, thanks for having me, and congrats on 70 episodes in a year and a half. Did you guys, when you did episode 1, think you'd be doing number 70 one day?
We hoped, but I don't know if we really thought about it. Did you, Will?
No, I definitely didn't. Episode 1, we had on Matthew Leffler, the armchair attorney, and he was talking about non-competes, non-solicits. And I mean, I remember vividly, this is before I'd really built out my personal operations team. I had fires going everywhere. First episode, we're live, so we're not recording, editing, then publishing. But I'm just like basically looking down the whole time, trying to put out fires, basically not present. After the episode, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. But, here we are 70 episodes later. So it's been a journey. It's been in the post I made, it's one of the most rewarding projects I've been a part of, just having people from all walks of the logistics landscape on the show. Have learned a lot and have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, what's cool from my standpoint of being an entrepreneur that's founded 2 businesses is just, watching you guys and your entrepreneurial spirit. Like 2 dogs, 1 pod is a household name in freight. And, to do that, so quickly is interesting. And like, honestly, you guys have an absolute show. I was like, wow, what a nice podcast to be on. So just congratulations on getting that notoriety as well.
Awesome, man. We appreciate the kind words. Real quick, I'm going to mute and unmute you. You kind of went out there. Will you say something real quick? I want to make sure we got good connection for you.
Yeah, so I think my connection's fine from what I know. I'm sorry if I went in and out.
No, perfect. Just towards the end there, but you
could have been on our end. I keep telling Will to let me take over the technology, but
no, this is okay. Well, time out. This is crazy. Every single week. Quick story. So we have a WhatsApp group with the guys that do our graphics, all that good stuff. We have a guest, we line it up, we tell them, hey, the show's on this date at this time. I send a calendar invite. We make a post on LinkedIn, and every single week, day of the show, Matt texts me. He's like, hey, like today, he said, hey, 4 p.m., right? I said, no. Then he sends me a screenshot of the calendar invite and says, that's what it says. I said, no, Matt, it's at 2 p.m. And it's also, you have a calendar invite. It's in the WhatsApp. It's on the LinkedIn. And now we're going back and forth so Matt would never be our CTO of Two Dogs, One Pie.
No, I mean that's funny, and you guys know where my wires really get crossed is when you're in a different time zone scheduling meetings for the future week. That's exactly. When that's a tough one.
Yes. Well, yeah, it's tough with Matt because I mean, one day he's in Tennessee, one day he's in Minnesota, one day he's in Columbia. You never know where this guy's going to be, so it can be tough to schedule with him.
Well, Kyle, kind of give us a little. I know Will knows a little bit more about you. I looked at your background. That's what kind of makes this show fun. Sometimes Will schedules the guests, sometimes I do. So it makes it fun. But obviously, you got a big background. I know a little bit about Yellow Diamond. I read up a little bit about Thrive. But yeah, maybe kind of give the viewers just kind of a brief background of yourself.
Yeah, no, I'd love to do that. So again, I'm Kyle Wilson. Thanks for listening. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia right now. Originally from Annapolis, Maryland. I moved down here in 2005 to go to Emory University. I graduated in 2009 with an economics degree. And if you guys remember, that was the recession. So there were no fancy economics jobs for me to get when I graduated. So I got the first job that was offered to me at a company called Echo Global Logistics. Truthfully, guys, I had no idea what an account manager was when I took the job. And pretty quickly, as most people listening to this podcast know, I found out it was cold calling. Nonetheless, though, I found out pretty quickly I was a great cold caller. I was sales rep of the year, both years that I was at Echo, which is about a $5 billion company. I think I'm the only person still to do that twice. And so since I was making about $35,000 a year at that point, I decided I should probably put those accolades on my resume and try to get a better paying job. And that landed me at a company called Trans Dynamics, which is out in outside the perimeter in Atlanta, Georgia. So this is a small company. The CEO was 82. The average salesperson was in their mid 50s. But I spent my 20s there. And that really, helped shape my overall logistics experience to be in that office where the whole business operated under one roof, right? So that was my experience. And so I had been doing it long enough in the sales position that when I turned 30, I kind of looked down, and Matt, this plays into what you do as an agent, but I kind of looked down at what I was making the company, what I was making myself. And I decided that if I was going to do the very hard job of being a freight broker for the rest of my life, that I was going to have to own the business and really increase that commission percentage from 10 to 15%, all the way up to as close to 100% as we could get it. So that's when I opened Yellow Diamond Logistics. And really the goal there was just to have a freight brokerage by myself. I just wanted to manage my own book of business, be self-sufficient, live a good life. But pretty quickly, I got kind of burnt out with the operational work. My skill is sales. I love making outbound calls. And so as soon as I saw that I wasn't able to make outbound calls 100% of the time anymore, I knew I had to hire somebody, right? And so this was 7 or 8 years ago. And this is just speaking honestly. I had thought about the support I had received at previous companies from the operations team. And the truth is, and everybody knows who's listening, that I was still waking up in the middle of the night many times a week, getting cussed out by people. And so at the end of the day, as a 30-year-old, when I was thinking about pulling, $50,000 out of my pocket to hire somebody in America to support me in operations, that really wasn't going to be there and give me that 100% entrepreneurial support that I needed. I wanted to try something different. Back then, there were people called virtual assistants in the Philippines. I'm just going to define that as an English speaker who knows how to use a computer, right? They might be good with the G Suite. They might be good with Microsoft Office. But at the end of the day, they're not classically trained business people. But nonetheless, I knew that a hard worker is what I needed. So I went to the Philippines and I met somebody named JP. For the next couple of weeks, I live broadcast everything I did on a daily basis. So answering trucker calls, negotiating on the fly, making sales calls, how to respond to angry customer emails. And About a month later, I was just extremely impressed that somebody from the Philippines could pick up freight brokerage as quickly as they could. So we started to scale again. And the story there is I looked up 4 years later, I had about 100 people in the Philippines. Yellow Diamond was doing about 50 million a year in revenue at EBITDA margins 4 to 5 times what anybody's ever seen in logistics. And so that's when Thrive Modal kind of started, guys. And I'll allow you to jump in, just interrupt me if you want. But family friends started coming to me saying, hey, Kyle, how did you go from being a pretty stressed outbound sales rep to, running a medium-sized business? And how can you help me do that with my accounting firm, my healthcare company, or, my logistics and freight brokerage? So I opened Thrive Modal really just wanting to help a couple family friends do what I did and kind of, experience the growth of a logistics company so easily. But all of that started to change too, right? So at Emory, I had a fraternity brother. His name was Oliver Ung. The difference between me and Oliver were this, right? When he was at Emory, he was president of their business school. When I was there, I wasn't even admitted. So over the next, 15 years, he went and ran a private equity company up in New York City. And he started coming to me with wider and wider books of research, basically saying, and his story was this, it was, Kyle, every time we buy a company, say a helicopter manufacturer in Nebraska, I'm the guy that they send out there to put a CRM in and to staff the accounting department. And guess what? Almost every single time I've got to convince someone from New York City to move to Nebraska to run that department. Oliver said, from what I've seen through you and Thrive Modal, I don't think we're ever going to have to do this again. So he came to me and said, I would like to run this business with you. From there, Thrive Modal really blossomed. We had to move out of the virtual assistant era, right? So I'll define when that ended. But I couldn't provide my customers with just English speakers who were trained in logistics, who weren't deeply committed to logistics, right? If somebody fell off, that would look poorly. And so I had to solve that problem that a lot of people are experiencing today with a lot of their outsourced providers. And how we did that was I hired the best recruiters from the best companies in Manila. So ex-Ernst & Young recruiters, ex-Deloitte recruiters, who now work for Thrive Modal and go to the real career-oriented talent that's sitting in their Fortune 100 companies up in the buildings in Manila. And we say to them, hey, I'm sure you've watched these virtual assistants the last 5 to 10 years with much lower skill levels than yours, have great work-life balances, make a lot of money, have fun with US companies. And so now we're able to convince the real career-oriented candidates to move away from their awesome jobs in the Philippines and directly into US companies. So Thrive Modal really does provide career-oriented talent. And kind of the stat that we like to give that provides for that is the average tenure of a placement through Thrive Modal is 3.6 years. From what I hear, that's 7 times what anybody else in logistics outsourcing is doing today. And the reason being is we're going to the real career-oriented talent who has already worked for 2 or 3 years for a US logistics company, right? They might work for C.H. Robinson currently. They've been there for 2 years. They understand the workload of being in logistics operations, but it provides a great life for their family. And they're looking for the next step where they can, do even more for a second company. So by going to people who have been tried and true in this industry, who want to stay in it, we've eliminated that retention problem.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot in there. I want to start just the issue, right? You love sales. You start Yellow Diamond, self-sufficient, then you realize you can't make those sales calls. You thought about the support that you had in the U.S. and you thought maybe this isn't the route I want to go. It hadn't been what maybe I had hoped it to be, and then you decided to try something else. Where was that inspired from? Like, how did you? Like, I understand you went to the Philippines to do it, but what gave you that idea that maybe there's a different way?
No, Will, that's a great question, and in all the years I've been doing this, no one's asked me that. But a lot of people have read this book. The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss was the first time I saw kind of virtual assistants being mentioned. And really, the rationale behind that is picking people from the right economies where the skill set costs the correct amount. And so kind of the worldview of Thrive Modal is this. We think we're moving into an era that's called the worldwide workforce, right? where people and companies kind of build themselves based on people in the correct economies, just like manufacturing companies build their products with, with items from all around the world. So that's really my worldview. I think we're only 5 to 7 years from, if we just talk about accounting, if you're the best accountant in the world right now and you're in Kenya or New York City, what you get paid is pretty different. I think we're about 5 to 7 years from that shrinking to almost being nothing. And again, that's because of the systemization of the world, and also Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is allowing anybody to kind of interact, in the business world that they want to. But really, systems like QuickBooks Online and HubSpot and NetSuite, they're universal at this point. Whatever country you're in, you've got training on those types of things. And that's why Thrive Modal's really able to produce the exact candidate that you're looking for, down to the software and hardware experience.
Yeah, worldwide workforce. I like that a lot. We were talking about it. It reminded me of that book one, and also some Dan Martell stuff about. So I think a very common theme, or at least my experience is similar to an extent, right? Like I found when growing this company, there's certain tasks that should be offloaded, and for whatever reason, I wasn't capable of delegating them, or maybe it was a control thing. But I found myself tied up with a bunch of maybe $10 to $15 an hour tasks that I shouldn't be doing, because my time is better. The ROI on my time is better invested elsewhere, but yet I'm having trouble offloading these tasks. And what you described, right? Videoing everything that you're doing. Man, I guess I was super ignorant, but like 6-7 years ago, I was just thinking about like certain things, training humans, like you can't, there's just certain things they're not going to get it. But, from today, I mean, it's much different. We've done some similar things with some staffing companies also in the Philippines. We talked a little bit about that. And yeah, I think that's a very common problem for people looking to not outsource, but even in office. Do I want to pay somebody $52,000 a year to do this role that maybe, it doesn't warrant that much? So how do I get the most utility out of my money here for my company, for it to grow and invest it in the right places? And that's a huge one. I think you said 5 to 7 years out, but I mean, even as of late, it's becoming, I don't want to say it's hot. Pretty much everybody to an extent is offshoring or nearshoring in some capacity, at least from what I'm seeing in logistics.
And Will, that's a good point. One thing I do want to touch on is, you mentioned the onshoring as well. So if you believe that, this is becoming a worldwide workforce, where you build your operations team is important, because you want to have a long runway for where there's still, financially, positive for your organization. And what we see is in Central and South America, that runway is about 75% up, where in the Philippines, it's about 35 to 40%. So I think, if you build something in South or Central America, it better be because you need Spanish. Otherwise, you've got to be across the globe in the Philippines. Additionally, the English score in the Philippines is a 62 out of 100, where Central and South America, even the most educated areas, is in the 40s.
Yeah. So Mike and Matt, I don't mean to monopolize all these questions.
I got a bunch when you're done on this.
This is going to be my last one, I guess. So Black Box, we've used a few different areas, right? And there's some that you mentioned, right? So Colombia, like Ukraine, Serbia, and the Philippines. And yes, we've been very pleasantly surprised, I guess, with the Philippines. That's been our best experiences, where we have the most offshore employees in the Philippines by far. And maybe it's a cultural thing, but it seems, at least the ones that we have, it seems like they've really bought in. They feel a part of Black Box and the family, and they take a lot of pride in their job. They're very respectful. And my experience with the Philippines as a whole, with the staff that we have, has been nothing but good. We really enjoyed it.
I love to hear that. Matt, you got some questions?
Yeah, I was going to chime in because it's actually interesting. I don't even think Will knows this, but before I got into logistics, I was working for the largest self-publisher in the U.S., in Indiana, actually. We had 300 employees in the Philippines in Cebu City. And it was really interesting because they were our whole payment central. So the sales team, when I had an order, we would send it over and they would do that. But they also, when COVID happened, and the book business kind of went out, they cut down half of the sales force. Luckily, I kept my job, but they just kept moving more and more to the Philippines. So it's kind of interesting to me that the logistics community is a kind of against, and this is whether it's Colombia, Philippines, or where, they're not really giving too many sales roles over there. But it was interesting because long before that's kind of, I got into, logistics, I saw that being done in the Philippines on a very large scale. So it definitely works there. I have a little bias because I enjoy going to Colombia. It's the first time I've left the country, but I've definitely seen the benefits of the Philippines. I am curious as well too, and then I'll shut up, because what's kind of like the main difference between a virtual agent and like a rep over there? Because honestly, I wasn't really familiar with the virtual agent until I was talking. Our largest agent just signed on, I think, 2 or 3 virtual assistants in the Philippines. And I didn't really ask too much, but I kind of was like, okay, you're just hiring offshore reps. But he was telling me he got it for like a price of like $1,000, $1,200. Now he's having to do a lot more hands-on training in that. But yeah, the virtual assistant thing seems to be the second time I'm now hearing about this in a week. So I was kind of maybe just curious kind of the difference between, you kind of touched on it some, but because the cost difference he was saying is like pretty substantial between a virtual assistant and then hiring somebody, whether it be in Colombia or the Philippines or Ukraine. Is that like a tough sell in that regard? Or yeah, maybe you just want to elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah. So the virtual assistants in the Philippines, again, these aren't per se people who have worked in large businesses or medium-sized businesses for the last couple of years. In general, they are people who have grown up in the computer era, so probably our age or younger, who are trying to get their first jobs by applying to US jobs online. So to me, that's what a virtual assistant is, more of a freelancer. The problem again with them is there's nothing to kind of keep them from applying to jobs while they work with you, having multiple jobs. And that's why you see those rates get so low. People aren't actually living off those rates. They just have multiple jobs. Mm-hmm. To talk about what Thrive Modal does, right, and how that's different than a virtual assistant, I like to highlight the job that, in my mind, is when I changed Thrive Modal from a virtual assistant company to the worldwide workforce and one-for-one staffing the exact candidates you want in the US with the exact job descriptions that you use to hire here. And that was 4.5 years ago. I went to a conference, I think it's CEO Coaching International, which for business owners who are listening, if you don't have a CEO coach, you've got to have one, someone who's seen, the road ahead of you. It's worth its weight in gold. Well, where was I going with that? So sorry. I went to the CEO coaching conference, right? And I came back and somebody called me and said, Kyle, I love what you were saying you could do offshore. And then he says to me, can you find me an electrical engineer with a master's degree to work at my solar panel manufacturing company in New Jersey? And at that time I laughed. I said, hey man, I don't know what conversation you were a part of, but there's no way that I said we could do anything like that. But I knew the guy well, and I said, nonetheless, though, if you don't hold my brand to it, you don't hold Thrive Modal to it, let me go out and see what I can do. I found a guy named Daryl Latrada with a master's in electrical engineering. He ended up replacing a University of Delaware graduate who had been at that company for 7 years with the same master's degree, whose salary was $180,000 a year for $16 an hour. Over the last 4 years, I've watched Daryl climb to be number 2 at that company. So he handles all of project management. So submitting the solar drawings to the state of New Jersey, managing their response times. If they change the drawings, he's got to re-quote with the vendors, get a buying experience from his customers. When I saw that happen, that's when my mind said, there's something else much more different going on here. We can't just call these people virtual assistants. And why did this happen? And that's where I started to formulate, this worldwide workforce, that Wi-Fi and the systemization of the world has allowed these candidates to plug in way stronger than they ever could, right? If you imagine 30 years ago, outsourcing, you had to print out all your materials, mail them over there with some US teachers, get a building, sit them in a building, teach everybody. And then maybe you would have a good offshore team. Now everybody's ready, already knows the stuff that you're using, and they understand how your business works too. So it's just a completely different time.
And I was kind of thinking about this as well too, because we had I don't know, maybe about a month and a half ago, we had David Bell, who founded Lean on the show, but he's not in that actively involved in that the offshore and nearshoring business now. He's doing AI, and Will loves AI more than I do.
I like automation. I'm an automation guy. I'm skeptical on AI.
But we've had a couple of those guests on, and their big selling point is this, you don't have to use as many offshore companies, because this can replace that. I'm kind of curious your thoughts on this too. I'm not sure what my opinion even is. It's just kind of interesting. We've had a lot of smart people that have maybe a little bit differing opinions on this.
Yeah. So my opinion, I guess, is this, right? So, if you've been a customer of an outsourced company in Central or South America, what you've probably experienced over the last 5 years is increases in prices, decreasing in the quality of people, and a decrease in how long those people stay with you. And the reason I believe is because logistics is a hard job. When those companies started out in Central or South America, the masses just rushed into them saying, great, there's these jobs, you just need to speak English. We're really excited. But over time, as the people saw just how hard it was to work in logistics and just how strenuous the US logistics leaders push its people, I think you saw people start to move out of those areas. So let's just say a company started in the capital of Colombia. Well, what we saw them do after that is then they had to move to the suburbs, right, to get a whole new group of people to come in. And now they're even in the rural areas and other countries. And to me, that's because the talent is realizing, hey, this is too hard of a job for what it pays in Central and South America. And that's my honest answer. And you guys, going into it, when I grew Yellow Diamond, right, the reason we're all in logistics was we saw a great path to a future for ourselves that we could grow for our families and all that. And that's the same thing that attracts people in the Philippines, is they see if they give their life to this, they can really change the trajectory of their family and their parents. And the people of the Philippines have been living a lot harder than the people in Central and South America for a while. Traditionally, the men in the Philippines are fishermen or work on cruise ships. So when they have their child, they go to a different country and make money. The women are nurses. So once they have their child, they leave, go to a different country to make money and send it back. This is a really unique time where the Filipino can stay with their family in the Philippines, make US dollars, and move, from low to middle class to middle to upper class, all in one lifetime, which wasn't possible back in the day.
So if I kind of were to summarize it, you're saying that AI, and automation kind of coming for offshore roles is probably, in your opinion, coming more for Central America because the quality is probably a little less.
No, well, so thanks for pointing out that the AI voice. I don't think that doesn't matter whether you're in Central America, South America, or the Philippines. The AI piece, I do think, is coming for a lot of operational jobs. I agree with you 100%, right? The track and trace job that I originally hired my first Filipino for was crucial 10 years ago, right? To have a salaried American doing that job. We all know that is not crucial anymore. There's technology, there's other options. And so I think some of the jobs are going to go away. But at the end of the day, the reason Thrive Modal is recruiting real career-oriented talent is that's not going to be replaced, right? The electrical engineers with master's degrees that cost a third of the price in the Philippines is not going to be replaced as quickly as the track and trace person at a logistics company.
I think that's a great point that you guys are doing the high level stuff, because I probably phrased that question wrong, but that was more of kind of David Bell's point of why he was in the AI automation space, because he thinks a lot of those are taking like the track and trace type of roles. But it sounds like you've kind of leveraged Thrive Modal to be able to take roles that AI and automation is going to have a difficulty getting a hold of.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, it's my honest belief that the companies who do outsourced people, who have placed an AI augmented bet I believe they placed that too early and they miscalculated. I think augmenting virtual assistants, so regular skilled people with AI, was a mistake, because what we're seeing now is augmenting the most talented people with AI is where the power is at, right? I think that's just a short stepping stone where you're augmenting virtual assistants with AI. They'll quickly be replaced as well.
100%. Well, I'll let Will chime in. I went on a, had a lot of questions on that. So I've learned a lot. So, Will, you're sure you got some stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about this whole AI automation thing. The way I see it is that, at least in my experience and those around me that I've seen begin, say, like an offshore journey, it's like the low-hanging fruit is like track and trace, right? Like that's usually the first thing that somebody does is these simpler, I don't want to say simpler, but more straightforward roles. And I kind of see that with AI. That's kind of like the easiest, I don't want to say low-hanging fruit, but low-hanging fruits. It's what makes sense to try to implement first. So like maybe those like lower level roles, because again, my experience with offshoring does it make sense to pay a U.S. person $52,000 a year to track trucks? And it didn't. If I do that on my team system, then I can't, provide that kind of that runway, the U.S. runway, Kyle, what you described, right, where a Filipino can go from low to mid to high class in one lifetime. If I want to do that with a U.S. worker as an account manager, I need the commissions around it to build around them. And if I'm having to pay U.S. $52,000 plus a percentage to track trucks, it's just not feasible, right? So for us, it was offshore, and with AI, we don't do any of it, but it's almost like track and trace would be the first spot where I would consider doing that. And then Thrive Modal, it seems like, is kind of more interested in the higher talent, right, where it's not really a track and trace use case, right? Like you have these higher level candidates that can do more, that you can put in better position. So I don't know. I mean, that's my position on it. I think AI kind of mimics the base level of offshoring right now, and I think that's the easiest implementation. Does that make sense, or am I talking in circles?
No. So you made perfect sense there, and I thought that was really insightful commentary. I think you hit it head on there.
Okay.
Matt, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a complicated, it's a complicated subject. I'm not a very tech oriented person, which is why I'm not exactly sure how, the AI is going to affect it or not affect it. I'm more going to be like a interesting, observer in that regard.
And so what you were talking about there, and it's just people getting comfortable with using AI. Just like at Yellow Diamond, I got comfortable using people from the Philippines. And at first, that was just track and trace. But there were a couple aha moments along that journey as I was building Yellow Diamond. One of the bottlenecks was dispatch. Even once I had started working with my guy from the Philippines, I still had this thing held inside of me thinking somebody from another company or from another country can't dispatch. It's too much to wrap your head around, right? Too much is moving every day. How are they going to do the pricing? And eventually I got to the point where I just had to put somebody on the phone to dispatch. And within the first call, I realized this. Well, one, everybody my Filipino is talking to has an accent on the dispatch line. So they were starting to build camaraderie that I couldn't build with the carriers. Two, in those tough situations when I'm just trying to get back on the phone and make more sales, and I would have given away $100 or $200 or $500 to get a load covered, a Filipino is not going to do that. They might give away 20 or 25 or 30, but it is not in their DNA to even get into the 50s or the hundreds, right? And so it was things like that when I saw that happen and click, where I went, wow, I couldn't have been any more wrong about what I thought about this and my perception. And another one of those bottlenecks also occurred when I thought I needed to be the number one account manager for all of my clients, right? I believed, just like many brokers today, that my logging into DAT and predicting things, based on what hour it was and how the day was feeling was better than everybody else's. So I hit a bottleneck, and one day I had to say to one of my guys in the Philippines, Kevin Lim, I said, Kevin, we're just going to have you start quoting now. You've been watching me for 2 years. You're going to screw a few things up. I'm okay with that. But at the end of the day, we're going to create you into a quoting machine. And at that point, my book of business might have been $80K a month. As soon as I removed that bottleneck, within a quarter, I went up to $250,000 a month. And so these are all areas where I held on as long as I possibly could, thinking only I could do it or only I had this special ability. And then in an instant, I was shocked and amazed. And so those are the stories that I love telling. Another thing that's important to talk about here is this, right? When you think about offshoring, a lot of people think of it as cheap or abandoning America. But at the end of the day, it's really this, right? The inflation in the United States has created an issue where $50,000 and even $60,000 jobs don't create enough utility for the people in them to want to stay, right? However, these exact same jobs in the Philippines paying, a third or a quarter of the amount are doing the following. So when I go to Bacolod, which is where a lot of the Yellow Diamond employees are, the guys who have been with me for 5, 6, and 7 years now pick me up in their brand new Toyota SUVs with leather. Their drivers are driving their cars, and then they drive me to their new community where if you've been at Yellow Diamond for 5 and 6 years, you're able to afford a brand new Chinese prefabricated house, which is a huge upgrade from the normal living quarters. So again, when you think about the rigors of logistics and why Matt and Will, you committed your life to it, it's because you see a great future, right? When you take that out of this equation and you're just like, hey, do this job for $50,000 a year and you're not going to be able to pay your bills, it doesn't work. And so that's why, again, to the American business owners still holding on to that, saying it's got to be done in America, well, you're deciding to keep a bad seat at your company and create poor utility for that individual. So as a business owner, you're the only one that can make that decision. Am I going to remove a bad seat from my company, or am I going to move it to somewhere that it's a good seat? And if you think about it like that, it makes perfect sense.
That's a great frame. That was a bunch of really good points.
How is it visiting the Philippines is my question. So
here we go.
I'm just curious, just to make it a more lighter comment. I never left the U.S.
3 days. All right.
I never left the U.S., but I did enjoy visiting Colombia for a variety of different reasons. But I've actually thought about visiting the Philippines, but is it the time difference? Like, do you have a lot of customers of yours that want to come out there and meet their employees? I know that's common in Colombia because it's easy with the time zone difference working for the U.S. company, but is the time zone difference like an issue for visiting, but probably more so like, the talent pool, because does the talent pool want to work, overnight there? If there's another, U.S. paying job that maybe has a night shift in the U.S. that's a day shift there, how does the time difference kind of factor into things?
Yeah. So to answer, for the people who are working for you, how it works, it is actually advantageous. So it's a 12-hour difference. So if they're starting their shift at 8 a.m. Eastern time, it's 8 p.m. in the Philippines. So these are people with families. They're putting their kids to bed. Their kids are going to sleep. They're working until 5 a.m. their time. When their kid wakes up, they make them breakfast and they take them to school and go to sleep. Now, to us, that sounds rough, but to the Philippines, where you're used to going to different countries to make your money, it's honestly a great reprieve for them. So that's the answer to that question. As far as visiting the Philippines, guys, there's a lot of great stuff and some interesting stuff, and I'll try to touch it all, and make some people laugh. But once you get to the Philippines, I would describe, getting to the different islands, kind of a mixture between the Greyhound station in downtown Atlanta and the jail, right? So it's in between the two of them. It's sometimes the bathrooms aren't working, if not all the time. There's not room for everybody to sit, and the folks around are the folks around. So when you're going to the remote islands that maybe not a ton of U.S. business people go to, that gets a little bit interesting. But as far as a place to go and have fun and meet awesome people, I'll tell you about my experience. The first time I went, I spent a week with my people in Bacolod, a week with my wife on some nice islands in the middle, and then a week in Manila. Now, when we go back, we've removed that kind of Western vacation part where we go to a nice hotel and sit on the beach, and we stay with our people. Like, our people just want our time, and they give us the best experience. Linus, my marketing manager at Thrive Modal, right? This time when I visit him, he's going to take me to a volcano, and we're going to go hang out. We're going to go see it. And so when you have people over there who you've changed their lives and they want to show you their culture, to me, that's been the best vacations in my life, well beyond, sitting at an expensive resort on the beach and drinking, right? The people there are what makes it just the best country to visit and the best people to work with, right? When you work with the Philippines, it's a message of gratitude. And that message is often missing in US business right now, right? We look at the people who are working for us, they look at us, and we just don't think they're giving enough. They don't think we're paying enough. And that gratitude that maybe our dads felt or gave, is not there anymore. But in the Philippines, it's very much so alive, right? That gratitude, or the American dream, so I call it, which the American dream here is tough. Those entry-level jobs at $50,000 and $60,000 aren't doing what they did in 1950. You're not getting a mortgage and a house with a white picket fence. But guess what? Those American jobs in the Philippines, what I just described with my guys showing up in Toyota SUVs with leather in their brand new houses, you've just got to put your American dream in the right spot.
How about, I love that, because, that's kind of what I experienced. I imagine that's similar to Colombia, or who knows, even maybe more of a pride, but the pride in the work and, being appreciative, something I definitely felt there. What about the safety out in the Philippines? Is it pretty? Because I noticed maybe some people kind of exaggerate that in the U.S. They all told me that I'm going to go die out in Colombia, and friends and family. And is it the same kind of thing in the Philippines? Does the U.S. government kind of exaggerate the level of danger visiting there?
Absolutely. I've been many more dangerous places, and I'm like you, Matt. I haven't been outside of the U.S. often. The folks in the Philippines see you, and their inclination is to serve you and to help you and to make you comfortable. It is not to take advantage of you. And I've been to rougher countries like Nicaragua, where walking down the street is actually kind of tough. No, the Philippines, you're absolutely fine. And again, the average person in the Philippines is about 5 feet tall and 120 pounds. So as an American over there, you're usually good to go.
I guess maybe to end, because I've had, I'll just speak to our company. We have about 20 reps through a Colombian, offshore company. They're fantastic. We love our actual team. Now, I've had some friends who work in your space, and, let's say even hypothetically, they had something that's, maybe you see this in kind of the TMS space as well, but even if they had something that, they had a better access to talent pool or better reps or cost or any of the things that would make it, it's so difficult. Do you run into that in the sales process? Because we have had some of our guys working with us for years, and the management that oversees it, and they kind of upend that. And then if you have, Will does this, but Will did this from the very beginning, where he uses a couple different companies, but then the, stress of managing, a team in the Philippines, a team in Ukraine, a team in Colombia. Are you guys mainly, is it difficult to get companies to change, and you're mainly just targeting people who have not used nearshore companies before, or kind of a combination?
So I think the main issue that's being experienced there with turnover happening after, some long tenure, is more so dictated by the fact that a lot of these companies in Central and South America have in-office work and mandate you be in office, right? These are tough jobs, and if you're good at them, I see all you guys are probably, or one of you sitting at home, you want to do these things from home. And as more and more opportunities open up to work from home, companies that require you to come into the brick and mortar location, that's going to be something they've got to pay for, right? You've got to pay a higher salary if I'm coming in. And so I think you see these companies losing some of their good people, maybe retaining their best, but then having to shift their best around from company to company to kind of keep everything organized. Again, when you get these individual contributors from the Philippines who have already proven for 2 to 3 years that they can work for a U.S. logistics company and are saying, I love this path, just like we did when we were younger, I want to keep going, that's where all the magic happens.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation. Who knows? Maybe we'll run into each other in the Philippines someday. I had told Will, that's why I was smiling. I had considered going out there. It's just I've never taken a plane ride longer than. I'm not afraid of flying. I just don't like being in airports and on a plane all day. So like 4 hours is the maximum I've done. So but might be some point I might get out there and check it out for myself.
Matt, the furthest I had ever done was Seattle before the Philippines, and it was okay. I'm sure you would absolutely love it. I suggest everybody go out there. Asia's a beautiful place. It's different than this side of the world in a lot of great ways too, right? For anybody that hasn't experienced it and has the opportunity, they should.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, no, Kyle, thanks a lot for making the time to join us. It's been very I don't know the word. This is like one of those topics that I've talked a lot about with a lot of different people, but you had some takes on it that I hadn't previously heard that able to frame things a different way, right? So it was a nice take on just everything that you're doing and that you have done. So no, we really appreciate your time coming on, and I'm sure that the guests appreciate it as well.
Hey, well, when I do my highlight reel of the year, being on 2 Dogs, 1 Pod is going to be at the top. You guys really made my day, so thank you.
I appreciate it. How can people reach you? Say they want to learn more about about your company and nearshoring. What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so it's going to be simple. It's going to be Kyle at Thrive Modal, just like intermodal, right? .com. Kyle at thrivemodal.com. And again, I do all of the upfront work. You just have to bring me your pre-existing job descriptions. I'll sit down and look at your organization, let you know where you can improve it, and then we will provide the people. So this is what I love doing now. I'm part of the Entrepreneurs Organization. I volunteer at my college's tech incubator, and really, using everything I've learned offshore has given me the most purpose in my life, because I'm able to meet other business owners and just see 1 or 2 screws they need to turn to really make a very successful machine. And that's really why I do this. That's what makes it a lot of fun. Last thing, guys, every Thanksgiving, Thrive Modal is in the Philippines. So if you ever want to ditch your families and hang out in the Philippines, Thanksgiving is the holiday.
I'm sure Matt will be there.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks,
Kyle. That was fun, man. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that episode. That's why I said, like, before the show, it's fun that sometimes I find the guests, sometimes you do, because sometimes going in, I know a lot about them. Sometimes I don't. I didn't know a ton about Kyle, so I learned a lot, and very successful individual. I can see why.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, he's got a great voice for calls and video too. Very, very well spoken, and I know some people on the video call is kind of like tough to understand, but you can tell he's been on a lot of phone calls throughout the years.
I've managed to understand you. It's taken about 70 episodes, but it took about
all right.
Maybe.
Anyway, shout out to our sponsors. Got Wirebee again, AI inbound call fraud. They're scamming.
Now you're losing.
Yeah, now I'm losing it because Matt's over here roasting me. Usually it's just these LinkedIn strays. I log into LinkedIn. I got 7 notifications. And they're all Matt just commenting on some random thread that has nothing to do with me, just attacking me. So yeah, God forbid I stuttered over some words at the end. But yeah, we got Wirebee, their AI inbound call fraud prevention. They're scanning those calls for you, keeping out the scammers, saving your reps a lot of time, and also not to mention somebody gets through, they steal a load, double brokering, all that situation. Never ends good, right? You lose a customer, it's very bad. And then we've got Black Box Logistics, the People's Choice 3PL, recently named. It's a very stout freight brokerage out of Birmingham, Alabama. So if anybody needs some flatbeds or anything like that, you should go to their website. Also here, they recently started doing Mexico, in and out of Mexico. So very exciting for them. Appreciate Black Box Logistics for your support.
HG Ships, if you're looking at, I'll make it a little bit simpler than the Black Box one. If you're looking to be an agent, I'd love to chat with you. Sales Dash CRM, OG sponsor since day one. Josh Lyles and Drew. Will and I have both golfed with them. We've both known them for a while. We have agents using them. Will's brokerage uses them. Can't say enough good things. Reach out to Josh or Drew. And top 10 factoring company, Tafts, as we've said numerous times, great guys over there, Ryan and Rob. We've met them both in person as well. If you're looking for factoring, great options. And yeah, we'll be back next week.
Hey, we'll be back tomorrow with Dog of the Week. And hey, any of our listeners, if you reach out to any of those companies, sponsors, tell them that the dog sent you. All great groups, and we couldn't be prouder to be aligned and supported by them. But yeah, we'll have Dog of the Week out tomorrow, and then we'll be back with another episode. Hopefully, Matt hasn't left the country and gone to some random country or moved to another state. Hopefully, he stays put in one place for a little while. Just the logistics nomad is what you are.
I got a lease here, man, so I got to be here at least be paying for it if I'm not here. So
yeah.
All right, I'll see you next week.
All right, see you, Matt.